So giving the mic to Mr. Jones to take us through this section.
Great. Thanks, Anthony. Hello, I'm Ashley Jones. I'm a developer relations engineer at Medic, and I'm based in the US. And as Anthony said, we're going to be talking about CHT 5.0. Next slide, please. So on the approach to CHT5, we looked at the total cost of ownership from a hosting perspective. And one of the main costs that was incurred by looking at all the production instance that Medic hosts was that storage was the predominant cost. So here we see it's 75%, and this is based off of the production instances that Medic saw hosted in its EKS deployment. Cost me very slightly if it's on GKS or Docker, but because it was storage, we had a big focus on decreasing the amount of disk that the CHT used. Next slide, please. So CHT5 should give you up to 34% less disk use. Let's talk about exactly what that means. To validate this, we have a graph on the screen that shows a production instance and the use of disk over time during the upgrade. So you can see that the upgrade started at about 63 gigs and ended up at 41 gigs. So this gives us our 34% disk. So 34% is not a guarantee. It's going to be the upper bounds of what we saw was possible when you upgrade your production instance. Other instances that have less data probably will see less disk savings, but the more data you have, the more likely you are to see higher savings. But this is just to show that this wasn't a synthesized data set. This was a production data set that has the right data density in terms of how many reports and how frequent the reports are coming in and how Couch has stored those and how we've been able to optimize them. Next slide, please. When we were showing off 5.0 to some partners, there was a question that came up about how many UI changes there are in 5.0. 5.0 itself actually has no UI changes, but the most important part is what version are you coming from? So when there's UI changes, this often can mean bringing CHWs in for training on how to use the new UI, which can be both expensive and incur a high time to get everyone to travel in. So I went back and looked at the different UI changes, and from 4.13 all the way through 5.0, there should be no UI changes. If you're on earlier versions, you should check to make sure that the UI changes that are there are either within or outside of your tolerances for when you need to do a training. But otherwise, like I said, for 5.0 itself, there's no UI changes. So it's going to be dependent on where you're coming from in the 4x code base. Next slide, please. All right, we have 2 slides of JSON. My apologies. But if you look at the colored text, I think it'll help. New in 5.0 is the impacts metric API. This is an authenticated API that lets you get aggregate stats about the impact of your deployment. So you can see on the left there, we have users, contacts, and reports. But importantly, you can see that contacts and reports are broken out by type. And so this will allow you to easily get aggregate stats based off of the growth of these over time. This is ideal for sharing with partners that want to know from last month to this month, how many more pregnancies have you registered or how many more households have you registered without needing to go through the more extensive setup of setting up either Couch to PG or CHT Sync. As well, you need to set up our DBMS Postgres database and then to run reports on top of that. So this is an out-of-the-box feature that will give you high-level aggregate stats that can be shared right away. Next slide, please. We got a hooray from Simon. Good to hear. All right, last JSON slide. In an earlier version of CHT, we added the ability for CHWs to see the available disk space that was on their device. And this was good for knowing when they might run out of disk, so they would need to clear more storage. but this wasn't helpful for administrators who may want to run an audit of the CHWs to know who was at risk of running out of space. So the user devices API has been extended to have two more fields, both the total storage and then the storage free. So administrators can run this on via an authenticated call like the Impacts API to get back on a per user basis what their storage is and how much disk space they have left. Next slide, please. All right. So this is version 5.0. The last version before this was 4.22. And the attentive of you will note this is not version 4.23. And that's because semantic versioning mandates that we increment the major version from 4 to 5 when there are changes that break your deployment unless you handhold that across the upgrade line there. So we have published already the preparing to upgrade to CHT5 guide, and this enumerates all the breaking changes and who they're applicable for. This is required reading for anyone who wants to upgrade. Each section will list out what the change is, how to remediate the change, and who it's applicable for. So for example, it might be that you're hosted in Kubernetes or K3s, and you need to adjust your infrastructure to account for the Nouveau container, which is a new service that we're adding in CHT5. But if you're running in Docker Compose, you don't need to worry about that specific change. So be sure you read through this documentation to account for each of the changes. It should be pretty quick to understand which ones apply to you and which ones don't, but this is not optional, part of the 5.0 upgrade fun. All right, next slide, please. On this section of the call today, we're talking about just some of the features, but there's a whole bunch of other improvements and bug fixes that have been made in CHT5. And I want to encourage folks to go look at the release notes, which will be out shortly, and make sure that they understand all the different improvements and changes that have been made in CHT5, not just what's being covered on the call today. Next slide, please. All right, and this last slide, which will segue us into the short demo that Deanna's going to give, talks about the improved synchronization speeds that we see. So here, this chart shows 5 different users, with the blue being CHT 421 and the red being CHT 5. So you can see that, generally speaking, CHT 5 is much faster. We've seen it be as fast as 68% faster than CHT4, and that's going to be especially true for users with large document counts. It may even enable users who were previously unable to sync to synchronize. So this is primarily improving the initial request to get the total number of documents that need to be synchronized and what those UUIDs are to the user faster. And this actually has 2 benefits. The first is that the users themselves will experience faster sync. This is a huge win. The second benefit is that the server itself will take less time to process each request, which means that a CPU that was previously, say, 92% full might be only 68% full. I'm just making up some numbers here, which means that the same CPU will be able to handle more users, or you can add more, you can have a CPU that is more rested and be able to do other actions on the server side. So this is a huge benefit, and the graph here shows users with different document counts, so that the larger the document counts, the more the savings are. All right, next slide. And with that, I'm going to turn over the call to Deanna, who's going to give a quick demo about the synchronization speeds in CHT4 versus 5.
Yes. Hello, everyone. To make this short, I have 2 windows here. Please, somebody please confirm they can see the 2 windows.
Yes.
Looks good.
Yes. Okay. So the one on the right is CHT 5.0, and the one on the left is CHT 4.22. This is an identical user. This is sample data that I generated this morning, so I'm not sampling actual production data today. But this is sample data, and these users are absolutely identical. So I generated the same data and I replicated it to 2 different instances. The 2 instances are also identical. They share the same resources and everything. So as Mr. Jones said, the improvement point here is the initial request to get the user's ID. So replication is split into multiple I suppose sequences, you can say sequences. And the first sequence is to get all of the users' IDs and then to download the documents that are necessary to be downloaded. When the user initially replicates, they will download all the documents. So this is what I'm showing now. I'm going to refresh both of these at the same time. And we're going to see a difference between the execution rates of these 2 requests. So the first part is getting the user's IDs, and this is the part that we're making faster. The second part is downloading, which doesn't actually touch any of the changes that we have made in CHT 5.0. So I'm not going to demonstrate actually downloading the documents. We're just demonstrating this initial replication request that, well, hopefully it's okay. So it's already fast. Phew. So with everything running around right now, okay. So this is CHT 5.0. It finished in 34 seconds. This user has 116,449 documents. So I selected a user with a lot of documents. They have a mix of things, by the way, this is using the easy mode test data generator to generate data. So I just tweaked the number of documents there, but the types of documents are coming from this test. So here we can see that finally the 4.2022 has finished. And if I'm going to zoom in here, not so much, we're going to see that this one finished in 34 seconds and this one finished in 52 seconds. So this is an identical request. That's it. This is our demo. I'm going to go back to Anthony.
Yes, thanks, Jones and Diana. Do you have anyone with any question? Ben, I know you are on version 4.21. Would you like to test this?
Do you mean locally? Locally, I'm on 5.0.
Oh, nice. So the demo you are doing is on 5.0?
No, that's 4.21.
Okay. All right. You are already converted. We are hoping more people can convert and projects. Any question to the team, Jones and Diana? Simon, would you like to try this?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Good job, guys.
All right. I think we can move to the next slide. All right. We wanted to share an update on our contributors and collaborators and the top ones for last month. So last month, here are the organizations that contributed a lot to the open source community. So these included Edify, Solink, UX Design, Clinton Health Access Initiative, Datalytics Craft, D3, Code for GovTech Community, MSF Suisse, and Medic. So we are looking forward to your continued contribution. And we are happy to see that also other organizations like UNICEF, IRC, and many other organizations are joining us in these calls and many ways to contribute. So as a way to appreciate them, let's just share our reactions, clap for them, share love for these awesome community members and encourage them to continue contributing. All right, thanks a lot. And then to our last slide. So thanks for your time. We'll be sharing the video and also the notes on our forum. And our next community event will be the community meetup, which would be next week on 18th from 1 to 2 p.m. Then the dev hour will be on 27th. Then we have the demo hour on 4th. Then our last roundup for this year would be on December 11th. So I'm hoping that the UNICEF team and the IRC team can continue to join us in this meeting to learn more from the community and also continue to share how the research implementation is going on. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank presenters, specifically Nolene, Janet, Francis, Ben, Diana, and also Mr. Jones. I'm not sure if there is anyone I've missed. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and insights. We have really benefited a lot, and I personally feel I understand the R-Switch project, and I'm confident I can be able to explain to other community members on how it works. So wishing you all the best the rest of the day or the evening, and looking forward to seeing you join other community meetup. Thanks and bye. See you soon, and let's continue the conversation on the forum.